everyone, welcome back to True Crime Buzz. I'm your host Amber, and today Brittany is setting this one out because we have a special guest host today.
Guess who? It's Brittany, bitch. Just kidding. Just kidding, it's not Brittany, it's Vanessa.
Vanessa's back.
I am back.
She just can't help herself.
I can't stay away.
She's busy, but then she's always messaging me like, hey, you want to record an episode? And I'm like, hell yeah, I do.
I am super fucking pumped about today's episode because this man is bananas.
Yes, and you've been wanting to cover this one for a while, but you were just really busy, and you were like, I promise I'll come back around to him, and I'm like, please do, because I want to hear it.
Well, get ready, because today we're going to learn what I believe should be a pretty standard life rule for everybody, and that is, don't let strangers take your picture.
Oh, you don't do that?
We're going to talk about Rodney Alcala. Okay, one thing. I knew who he was, but there is a documentary on, I want to say it's on Hulu right now, and it's The Dating Game Killer, and it is so fascinating, and it was so well done, that I ended up looking him up in my serial killer encyclopedia, and then I did a whole bunch of Googling and a whole bunch of YouTubing. So without further ado, let's get into this lunacy.
Wait, I have to know, are you drinking anything?
Oh, I forgot about that. No, I'm not. I still should not be drinking.
I was wondering.
I did get drunk 2 weekends ago.
Good for you.
It took like nothing to get me hammered. It was orange juice and vodka. But I also saw on TikTok, because I'm a TikTok addict.
I know, me too.
Oh God, that Blue Mountain Dew and whipped cream vodka tastes like cotton candy. I don't know if that's true because I can't find the Blue Mountain Dew, but as soon as I do, I will report back. In about 5 weeks, I'm actually moving back down south to Atlanta, Georgia.
Whoop whoop!
Yeah, I'll be about 3 hours from Amber, which means we can finally maybe record in person.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Yes, we'll have to do that. We'll get us some Bojangles.
Yes, we will.
I told my new roommate, Lindsay, that don't mind my eating habits for like the first 6 weeks I'm in Georgia, because we have no Krispy Kreme, we have no Cookout, we have no Bojangles, we have no Publix, so...
Oh my gosh.
I am 100% going to gain the weight that I have lost back, so...
Right, so anyways...
So, okay, Rodney Alcala, he was born in San Antonio, Texas, to Raul Alcala and Ana Maria Gutierrez. In 1951, the father moved the family to Mexico and then abandoned them 3 years later.
Oh, Father of the Year.
That's what it says in my notes.
Oh!
Same brain.
We're still in sync.
Apparently under, the cloak of night, he just said, bye.
He went out to get cigarettes.
In 1954, when Alcala was about 11 years old, his mom moved him and his 2 sisters to suburban Los Angeles. And when he was 17, he joined the Army and served as a clerk. During his time in the Army, he suffered what I have read described as a nervous breakdown, during which he went AWOL, hitchhiked from Fort Bragg to his mom's house, and was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder by a military psychiatrist. Thus, he was discharged on medical grounds, and other diagnoses later proposed by various psychiatric experts at his trials included narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, malignant narcissism with psychopathy, and sexual sadism comorbidities.
Oh my God.
So, imagine carrying those diagnoses around.
I just didn't realize that there was a malignant narcissism.
Yeah, so...
I thought it was all malignant, but to know that they took it an extra degree.
Okay, so I watched a documentary called Unfit, and they laid out the 4 main components to get that diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And one of them is you sham people and have no regrets about it.
Yep. Yep.
The other one is turning everything back to me.
Oh yeah, 1000%. They always turn it around.
But they have a lot of people saying, you can't diagnose people unless you treat them. It's a really good documentary. They have both sides.
I'm always here for a good documentary, so.
Mm-hmm. It's great. So after leaving the Army, Alcala graduated from UCLA's School of Fine Arts and later studied under Roman Polanski. So 2 things. 1, UCLA's not an easy school to get into.
That's what I was just getting ready to say.
How did he get in? And also, Roman Polanski's a real piece of shit.
Yes, he is.
For those of you who don't know, he is a film director and he is a fugitive from the United States. He fled the country in 1977 while awaiting sentencing for unlawful intercourse with a minor.
Yep.
And fun story, Polanski was Sharon Tate's boyfriend when she was murdered by the Manson family.
Yeah, I've considered doing a whole episode just on him because he's such a shit person.
You should. So now we're going to get into the crimes. And I will also preface this by saying our little justice system failed so many times because he keeps getting out. So he committed his first known crime in 1968. An eyewitness in Los Angeles called police after watching him lure an 8-year-old girl named Tally Shapiro into his Hollywood apartment. When police arrived, they knocked politely and said, "Excuse us, sir, what you doing?" And he cracked the door and was basically just like, "I just got out of the shower," but the officer noticed he wasn't wet and didn't have a towel. And the officer was like, "Okay, you've got 3 seconds," and then he kicked the door in. They found the girl alive, raped, and beaten with a steel bar.
Oh my God.
But Alcala fled. So the officer had to choose to follow Alcala or save the little girl. And to his credit, he saved the little girl. She is still alive and well and looking like $1 million.
Good for her.
Good for you, girl. To evade the resulting arrest warrant, Alcala left the state and enrolled in the NYU Film School using the name John Berger. So apparently in the 70s, you didn't have to have any ID to enroll in school?
Yeah, it was different times. I think you could just like write on a piece of paper yourself, "I now have this degree," and just take it somewhere and they would take it.
To be fair, if I remember correctly, there were no pictures on driver's license back then either, because when Ted Bundy was in Florida and the judge was like, "Who are you, girl?" I don't remember the name he used, but driver's licenses were not like it is now. It was just like a piece of paper, apparently. So in 1971, he obtained a counseling job at New Hampshire Arts Camp for children using a slightly different alias, John Berger. Super cool name, buddy. If I could change my name to anything, it certainly wouldn't be something like John, and it also wouldn't be a food.
No, definitely not.
Do better. So that summer, Cornelia Michelle Crilly, a 23-year-old flight attendant, was found raped and strangled in her Manhattan apartment. Her murder remained unsolved until 2011.
Whoa.
Yeah. In 2003, New York police detectives investigating the murder went to California with a warrant to interview Mr. Alcala and got a dental impression from him. And during that time, he was actually in prison for murders we're going to get to, but he initially denied that he had ever visited New York. But after the police presented him with a warrant, he responded, "What took you so long?" Like, okay, you little creep. A forensic dentist later issued an opinion that the bite mark on Mrs. Crilly's body was consistent with Mr. Alcala's impression.
Again, Ted Bundy.
Surprise, Sade. The FBI then added Alcala to its list of 10 most wanted fugitives in early 1971. A few months later, 2 kids attending the art camp noticed his photo on an FBI poster at the post office that was on campus. They went back to the head counsel and were like, so hey, we're pretty sure that John Berger is actually Rodney Alcala. And the counselor was like, okay, nobody panic. We're gonna be fine. It's chill, stay here. He then went to the post office and was like, girl, it's him, and called the police. Alcala was arrested and extradited to California. By then, Tally Shapiro's parents had relocated their entire family to Mexico and refused to allow her to testify at the trial. Unable to convict him of rape and attempted murder without their primary witness, prosecutors were forced to permit Alcala to plead guilty to a lesser charge of assault. Yeah.
Damn it.
So Alcala was paroled after like 17 months in 1974 under this program that was popular at the time called indeterminate sentencing. It allowed parole boards to release offenders as soon as they demonstrated evidence of rehabilitation. So keep that in mind. Less than 2 months after his release, he was rearrested for assaulting a 13-year-old girl identified in court records as Julie J. She accepted what she thought would be a ride to school. Following that, he was once again paroled after serving 2 years of an indeterminate sentence. Can this man stay in prison for 3 seconds?
No.
Can he stay at all? In 1977, after his second release, his Los Angeles parole officer took the unusual step of permitting a fucking repeat offender and known flight risk to travel to New York City, because that's what you do,
Yeah.
Cold case investigators now believe that a week after arriving in Manhattan, Alcala killed Ellen Jane Hoover. She was 23. She was the daughter of the owner of a popular Hollywood nightclub. I think it's pronounced Ciro's, and she was the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. Her remains were found buried on grounds of the Rockefeller estate in Westchester County. In 1978, Alcala worked for a short time at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter and was interviewed by members of the Hillside Strangler Task Force as part of their investigation of known sex offenders. Although he was ruled out as the Hillside Strangler, he was arrested and served a brief sentence for marijuana possession. He was released, and then he moved on to convincing hundreds of young men and women he was a professional fashion photographer and photographed them for his, quote, portfolio. A New York Times co-worker later recalled that Alcala shared his photos with his workmates. I thought it was weird, but I was young and didn't really know anything. And when I asked why he took the photos, he said their moms asked him to. But I remember the girls were naked, they said. So that I'm creeped out. This is terrible.
It's horrible.
I say that like this is not a true crime podcast. And
I know, right?
It's
like
all rainbows and butterflies here.
Yeah.
Apparently, he said he was a professional, so in my mind, I was being a model for him, said a woman who allowed Alcala to photograph her in 1979. She said the portfolio also included spread after spread of naked teenage boys, and most are sexually explicit. And actually, most of these people who were photographed remain unidentified. Police fear that some of the subjects may be additional cold case victims.
Oh, God.
There is actually, and I'll get to this towards the end, the pictures are online now, and they want people to come forward, or if you know something or whatever.
To, like, identify them. Yeah.
And I looked at the pictures, and it's creepy and sad, because you're looking at these people, and whom the majority of are dead or are likely dead, and it's like you get a moment into their lives, and it's like...
the worst moment.
Yeah. So, in 1979, according to the trial testimony, Alcala knocked unconscious and raped a 15-year-old Monique Hoyt while she was posing for photographs. In 1978, here's where we get into the dating game. He was a contestant.
From Hollywood, the dating capital of the world, it's The Dating Game. Here's the star of our show, your host, Jim Lyons.
Hey! Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And welcome to The Dating Game. And we'll get right underway. It's time to meet our first three eligible bachelors for game number one. And here they are. Good luck, gentlemen. Well, let's see. Bachelor number one is a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome.
Which all three are lies.
Yep.
Okay.
A fellow Bachelor contestant later described him as a very strange guy with bizarre opinions. Alcala actually won the competition and a date with Bachelorette Cheryl Bradshaw, who subsequently refused because she found him creepy. Yes, girl.
I was going to say, I remember watching footage of the game show with him on it, and he is the super creep.
Bachelor number one,
Yes.
what's your best time?
The best time is at night, nighttime,
Why do you say that?
because that's the only time there is.
The only time? What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good. Then you're really ready.
A bachelor number one, I am serving you for dinner.
Oh,
What are you called and what do you look like?
I'm called the banana, and I look really good.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
Peel me.
Special shout out to Cheryl Bradshaw for going with your gut.
Yes. Your gut is rarely wrong, so I'm so glad that she didn't go. She could have been another victim.
So, criminal profiler Pat Brown, noting that Alcala killed at least 3 women after his dating game appearance, speculated that this rejection might have been an exacerbating factor. One wonders what that did in his mind, she said. This is something he would not take too well to. Serial killers actually don't, there's a theory that they don't understand the rejection. they think something is wrong with that girl. They say she played me, she played hard to get, all those things. Which, two things. One, let's not victim blame. That because Cheryl said, no thank you, that's why 2 more girls got killed. It's not Cheryl's fault.
No, absolutely not.
I'm also not sure I believe the idea that they don't understand rejection. I think they understand it, they just don't like it.
Possibly. I don't know. I mean, there's so much about the mind of like a serial killer or any sort of hardcore criminal that I still don't fully understand. But
I was just going to say, we won't understand because we're not serial killers.
right,
That's
exactly.
an alternate title to this podcast. We're not serial killers.
Today's episode is presented by the SkinStore. For over 20 years, the SkinStore has been the #1 destination for premium skincare, hair care, and beauty products. With over 8,000 different products from 300 different brands, the SkinStore has you covered for all your hair, cosmetics, supplements, and of course, skincare needs. Find your favorite brands like Elta MD, NuFace, Olaplex, and more, all in one place with gifts with every purchase. Right now, the SkinStore is offering our listeners 20% off your next purchase by using the code POD. That's code POD for 20% off your next purchase at skinstore.com/pod.list. SkinStore, have the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Exclusions apply.
His next victim was a 12-year-old girl from Huntington Beach named Robin Samso. They found her decomposing body 12 days after she went missing, somewhere between the beach and her ballet class. Her friends told police that a stranger had approached them on the beach asking to take their pictures. Detectives circulated a sketch of the photographer, and Alcala's parole officer recognized him. During a search of his mother's house in Monterey Park, police found a rental receipt for a storage locker in Seattle. And in that locker, they found Samso's earrings. Alcala was arrested in July 1979 and held without bail. Fucking finally.
Yeah.
This man was in and out of jail like 5 times.
And isn't that such a stupid pattern, too, that we see with most of these cases we cover, is all this could be prevented if you would have just left their asses in jail? But
right.
no.
It's a real tricky thing because it's like, we don't want to leave people who are innocent in jail, but we also don't want to let people like Mr. Alcala, who just like rape and murder everybody out here, out multiple times, because this is what happens. In 1980, he was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death for Samso's murder, but the verdict was overturned by the California Supreme Court because jurors had been improperly informed of his prior sex crimes. In 1986, after a second trial virtually identical to the first except for the omission of the prior criminal history, he was again convicted and sentenced to death. A Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals nullified the second conviction, in part because a witness was not allowed to support Alcala's contention that the park ranger who found Samso's body had been, quote, hypnotized by police investigators.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Apparently, a witness was not allowed to support his contention that the park ranger was hypnotized by the police. Which, what in the fuck?
That doesn't even make sense.
Right. I hate it.
And it's not something you could prove, even if that was like a thing.
Right.
Okay.
So, while preparing for the third prosecution in 2003, Orange County, California investigators learned that his DNA, sampled from a new state law over his objections, matched semen left at the rape murder scene of 2 women in Los Angeles. Additional evidence, including another cold case DNA match in 2004, led to his indictment for the murder of 4 additional women. Jill Barcombe was 18 and a New York runaway found rolled up like a ball in a Los Angeles ravine in 1977. She was originally thought to be the victim of the Hillside Strangler. Georgia Wixt, she was 27, was bludgeoned in her Malibu apartment in 1977. Charlotte Lamb was 31 and raped, strangled, and left in the laundry room of an El Segundo apartment complex in 1978. And Jill Parent-Now was 21 and killed in her Burbank apartment in 1979. All of the bodies were found posed in carefully chosen positions. Another pair of earrings found in Alcala's Seattle storage locker had residue that matched Lamb's DNA. During his incarceration between the second and third trials, he wrote and self-published a book called You, the Jury, in which he claimed innocence in the Samso case and suggested a different suspect. He also filed 2 lawsuits against the California penal system, one for a slip and fall incident and one for refusing to provide him a low-fat diet.
Fuck this guy.
Right.
The audacity.
Harry Potter and the audacity of this bitch.
You said it, sister.
So in 2003, prosecutors entered a motion to join the Samso charges with those of 4 newly discovered victims. His attorneys contested, if you're a juror and you hear one murder case, you might be able to have reasonable doubt, but it's very hard to say you have reasonable doubt on all 5, especially when 4 of the 5 aren't alleged by eyewitnesses but are proven by DNA matches. In 2006, the California Supreme Court ruled in the prosecution's favor, and he stood on trial in February 2010 for the 5 joint charges. For the 3rd trial, he elected to act as his own attorney. Don't they all? Like,
Oh my god. Why do they I guess the whole back to the malignant narcissism. Like, no one can handle this case but my own self. I'm the only one smart enough.
right, please no.
Have several seats.
Girl, take several seats and sit quietly. So get this. He took the stand in his own defense and for 5 hours played the role of interrogator and witness, asking himself questions, addressing himself as Mr. Alcala in a deeper than normal voice, and answering them. During the bizarre self-questioning and answering, he told jurors in like a rambling monotone that he was at KNOTTS, Knott's Berry Farm, applying for a job as a photographer at the time Samso was kidnapped. He showed them a portion of his 1978 appearance on The Dating Game in an attempt to prove that the earrings found in his Seattle locker were his, not the girl's. Jed Mills, the actor who competed against him on the show, told a reporter the earrings were not yet a socially acceptable accoutrement for men in 1978. He said he had never seen a man with an earring in his ear and he would have noticed that on him. Which, to be fair, I can see that.
Yeah.
Alcala in this trial made no significant attempt to dispute the 4 added charges either, other than to assert that he could not remember killing any of the women. Like, dope, is that the new standard of evidence, Rodney? Like, I don't remember doing that, so...
No.
Definitely didn't do it.
If I can't remember, then it didn't happen.
I actually operate under that theory most of the time because I have... we all know I have ADHD. And
we all know.
When my medicine wears off, I have a hard time remembering if I've done something that day or if I've done it like the day previous or at all. So I typically operate like, you didn't do it. And then if I realize I have done it, then great. But most of the time I haven't done it.
When you find the evidence of your own actions and you're like, oh yeah.
I did do this.
Do you also have the conversation with yourself about yourself? Like you're in front of a jury?
When I talk to myself, I refer to myself as we. Like, we're not going to do this, Vanessa. I don't...
That wasn't me, that was Patricia.
Pretty much. I have said before, that was old Vanessa. New Vanessa is walking with the Lord. So... So, as part of his closing argument, this bitch played Arlo Guthrie's song Alice's Restaurant, in which the protagonist tells a psychiatrist that he wants to kill.
He played a song?
Yeah, about somebody that wants to kill somebody.
Oh my god.
Which, what a fucking closing statement, Rodney. To which I say, you dumb bitch. Like...
What a...
So, after less than 2 days deliberation, the jury convicted him on all 5 counts of first-degree murder.
No way.
And they had a surprise witness. Guess who it was? Tally Shapiro, his first victim.
Good for her. Yes.
Tally came back and was like, no girl.
I would love to see
I know.
his face when she like walked in the courtroom. Was like,
I hope, in my dreams.
it's Brittany, bitch.
Yes. I sincerely hope that she like flung those doors open and walked in like she was on Tyra Banks.
Yes. America's Next Top Model.
Yes. And just sat down and like dead ass like looked at him in the face like, surprise. So this man, he's a psychiatrist paid by Rodney. His name is Richard Rappaport. And the only defense witness testified that borderline personality disorder could explain his claims that he had no memory of committing the murders. But the prosecutor argued that Alcala was a sexual predator who knew what he was doing was wrong and didn't care, which, correct.
Correct, yes.
In March 2010, Alcala was sentenced to death for a 3rd time. The Huntington Beach and New York City Police Departments released 120 of Alcala's photos and sought the public's help in identifying them. They want to determine who these people are to see if there are additional victims we may not know about, but approximately 900 additional photos could not be made public because they were too sexually explicit.
There's that many?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
In the first few weeks, police reported that approximately 21 women had come forward to identify themselves, and at least 6 families believed that they recognized loved ones who disappeared years ago and were never found.
That's heartbreaking.
Oh my god, yeah. None of the photos were unequivocally connected to a missing person or unsolved murder until 2013, when a family member recognized the photo of Christine Thornton, who was 28, and her body was found in Wyoming. As of September 2019, 109 of the original photos remain posted online, and police continue to solicit the public's help with further identifications. So in 2010, New York announced that they would no longer pursue Alcala because of his status as a convict awaiting execution. But nevertheless, in 2011, a Manhattan grand jury indicted him for the murders of Cornelia Crilly, the flight attendant, and Ellen Hoover, the Ciro's heiress. In 2012, Alcala was extradited to New York, where he initially entered not guilty pleas on both counts. He changed that to guilty, citing a desire to return to California to pursue appeals on his death penalty conviction in December 2012. On January 7, 2013, a Manhattan judge sentenced him to additional 25 years to life because the death penalty hadn't been an option in New York since 2007. In Washington, Seattle police named him as a person of interest in the unsolved murder of Antoinette Whitaker and Joyce Gaunt, who was 17. Alcala rented this storage locker where investigators found jewelry belonging to 2 victims, and they believe those are the victims.
Are these all different lockers?
No, he only had the one in Seattle.
Okay. I didn't know if he was just like going around to these like random lockers, just like leaving little tidbits. Okay.
In San Francisco in March 2011, investigators north of San Francisco announced they were confident Alcala was responsible for the 1977 murder of 19-year-old Pamela Lamson, who disappeared after making a trip to the Fisherman's Wharf to meet a man who had offered to photograph her. Her battered naked body was found in Marin County near a hiking trail with no fingerprints or usable DNA. Charges are likely to be filed, but police claim there's sufficient evidence to convince them that Alcala committed the crime. In Wyoming, which is their last state, in 2016 he was charged with the murder of 28-year-old Christine Thornton, who disappeared in 1977. A relative recognized her as the subject of one of his photos made public by Huntington Beach PD. Her body was found in Sweetwater County in 1982, but not identified until 2015, when DNA supplied by Thornton's relative matched tissue samples from her remains. Alcala admitted to taking the photo, but not to killing her, who was approximately 6 months pregnant at the time of her death. She is the first alleged murder victim linked to the Alcala photos made public in 2010. And then 73-year-old Alcala was, quote, too ill to make the journey from California to Wyoming to stand trial. He remains in California State Prison, Corcoran.
Oh, so he's still alive?
I believe at the time of my Googling, yes.
For some reason I thought he was dead. I don't know.
No. According to Murderpedia, he actually could be considered one of, if not the most prolific serial killer. The number of victims is thought to be closer to 130.
And that's murders. That's not,
yeah, that's not like assaults. That's
rape,
murders.
molesting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's 77 years old today. As of January 8th, 2021, he's alive and he's in Corcoran State Prison. He has long curly hair. He is ugly as fuck. And yeah, there you have it. That's all, folks. Like,
until next time. This is one of those, if I have to know it, you have to know it. That is 100% this episode. Love our podcast? Then hit that subscribe button and leave us a review.
We're also on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/truecrimebuzz and join today for access to all our exclusive content, including bonus episodes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TC Buzz Podcast.
And check out our website at www.truecrimebuzz.com.
Until next time, cheers!